Bum, 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 bum. Turn the volume off. Hey, there we go. We are live chat with your host, IDJESTER, and our good friend, Retro Sports Network. How are you doing tonight, Ron?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Not bad.
That's good.
Recovering from my little procedure, but I'm doing okay. Hanging in
Good.
there. We're going to give everybody, if you're just joining us, we're going to give everybody a couple minutes to join us up tonight. Tuesday night, our typical live stream, but unfortunately, we were going to be doing Al Red Sox fan, but he's under the weather. He had said this afternoon or this when you were running your live stream earlier, he was in it,
noontime.
but he wasn't.
Feeling well.
Yeah, he said he wasn't feeling well, so he emailed me when he got home and said he was under the weather. So no Al Red Sox fan tonight. Maybe we can get him later on, but I think we might have to switch up the format of the show now. I think because I've called and said, hey, if you want to do a live chat, get with me. And we've done Dave Little, we did Ron, we did Clinton Parks, we've done Retro Sports Network. Who else have we done?
You've done you did Tenacious Earl, right?
I did Tenacious Earl, I did Living My Rhapsody.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other people that don't want to do it, don't want to be interviewed, or don't have time, or whatever. But I did Stratomatic Delaware as well.
Well, I mean, we both have done interviews with Chris, and just remarkable.
He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I tell you, he's one of a kind. That's for sure. He's really, really considerate. He emailed me. I think it was like Thursday or Friday of last week. It was like, hey, man, haven't seen you for a couple of days. Just wanted to check on you and see how you're doing and make sure everything's okay with you.
Yeah, that's just the type of guy he is.
Exactly.
The rest of us look like pikers.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for your email, Ron. I appreciate it.
You're not welcome. No, I'm just kidding.
Know.
You were actually right there on Thursday afternoon, whenever game I did Thursday last week. So I knew that you were doing okay. If I hadn't seen you in a couple of days, I probably would have dropped the line. But.
Yeah. You saw me, so.
So, yeah. I mean, so obviously what you had done was pretty mild.
Oh, yeah. Just trying to recuperate, a couple days. And then, of course, this weekend, then the medicine that I was taking, the after effect medicine, activated my gout. So I was down all weekend with gout. So, yeah,
that's not fun.
No, I was getting about an attack every month. So they finally put me on medicine, which I was taking, and I haven't had a gout attack in like 6 months. So everything was good there. But
good.
Then all of a sudden it was like back again. But, I was getting it, and it was like a week I would be out, maybe a week to 10 days. But this time it was Saturday was bad. Sunday I was better-ish. And then Monday I was limping. And then Tuesday, today I was about 90% back already. So, hey, Baseball Demos, how you doing, buddy? We're just having an impromptu live stream tonight because Al Red Sox fan couldn't make it. So we're just going to have our good friend Retro Sports Network. We're going to talk sports. We're going to talk all kinds of fun things tonight. So hopefully it'll be a good time for everyone. We're just letting everyone get a chance to join us before we get started. We're just kind of just hitting the hay here, just talking.
My dad discovered he had gout when he was in Russia. He was covering whenever the Olympics were in Sochi, because he was the writer for Ski Racing magazine. And he goes over and has his first attack, and not nowhere near his doctors or 8 time zones away.
Right.
So, that was fun, but
ugh.
Yeah,
I could just imagine that would be horrible.
Ugh. It's scary because it's just you've had it. Now you know what to expect, but the first time you really don't.
Right. Yeah. First couple times. because I had actually, I get it in my left foot about 80% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I had broken my left foot and I had pins in my foot for a while and everything. So I thought it was like, because I couldn't walk on it, it was getting swollen. I was thinking the pins and the needles and everything were cracking the bones or causing muscle irritation. So I didn't even know I had gout for like the first year. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
So what did they put you on, like a diuretic?
it's called allopurinol. It's been around since 1956, I think they said, but and it works great. I mean, since I take it every day, haven't had any problems. So,
That's good.
but I couldn't be on my medicine for a couple of days for this procedure.
Right.
So go a couple of days without, and then it takes a couple of days to get back in the system, and then before it could get back in, that's when I started having my flare-ups again. So.
Never fun.
All right, we do have 7 people watching, so thank you all for joining us. I do appreciate it. We're just kind of shooting the breeze right now, but we'll get into some more serious stuff. We're just having an impromptu live stream tonight. No interview. This is going to be impromptu as we have Retro Sports Network joining us. We have baseball demos in the chat. We also have Rob Explanation Point. And we have baseball demos in the live chat. So since we have all the main players, let's
Yes.
talk about that first.
Okay.
So
Did I pitch well for you, Coach?
you did really, really well.
8
So
innings, one hitter.
a one hitter through 9 innings is not bad. I was expecting a no hitter, but for your first outing, I think
Hey,
we'll put you out there again.
19 up, 19 down in a row before I finally gave up. That was wild. That was wild. They had me pick the stadium, and I was trying to find, something that would be so anti-dead ball that's, something that you would appreciate. And what worse can you be? Can you have than the vet?
Exactly.
That
That was perfect.
And of course, Clinton's card was what, 65 Koufax, and so I'm not surprised that we sat there and traded zeros back and forth. It made for a very tense game. That was fun. I really enjoyed that.
It did. There was a few moments where like there'd be a walk or somehow a hit batter or something, and then like the next play would be like a double play. So it'd be like, oh, there goes that opportunity. So it was just like waiting on pins and needles for something to
Yeah.
happen for one team or the other.
It's interesting. I had never really, I've seen the History Maker baseball cards, but I've never really watched a game. And, I really wouldn't call it a serious sim, but gosh, that was fun. I mean, anything that you got 2 straight ground balls back to the pitcher, back to first, that's not happening. But, nonetheless, I thought it was quite fun.
Absolutely. And for those of you who might not know what we're talking about, Baseball Demos decided to put together a History Maker baseball sim where he takes all of our YouTube community members and puts us up against one another, put us on 2 teams, IDJESTER's team and Robbie Wartburg's Dead Ballers. And so we have 2 teams going at it. And I think it's good because it brings the community together, kind of inspires everyone to kind of talk to everyone and just kind of be involved in what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, add Rob's YouTube Racing League. Have you won yet in that, by the way?
Did you not see today?
Did you win today?
I won today. So another thing that's going on is
And the car field inspection after, right?
Rob Explanation Point has got what is it, red, white, and blue racing, right?
Yes.
And again, he's taken our YouTube community.
It's also a
giving us
play.com
each.
game too.
Yep. Both of these games, yeah, actually from play.com, and putting our community members again in a racing sim. Each one of us have a racing car. And I actually was on the pole today, but I didn't lead a race until lap 14. I made the pass in lap 14. And then on lap 15, I held him off for the checkered flag. I
There
don't
you
have a checkered
go.
flag.
Those
So
are fun games.
they
You know,
are. They're fun to watch. They're fun to be involved with. I mean, that it's excellent that they, the designer actually created it so that you can create your own additions to the game.
absolutely. And there's even with the History Maker, there's a set of fictional players that comes out every year. I think Steve Towers is the one that has the franchise here in New England and all that. I think it's great. I think a lot of, especially the cards and dice gaming, can be very serious, and I think it's kind of fun to have something that's kind of light and it's realistic enough that you don't feel it's fake, but it's light enough that you're not sitting there going, okay, So yeah, I'm delighted.
Absolutely. I think it builds the community. It brings us closer
Oh,
together. We
sure.
form more friendships. We form more, and even though we tease one another about different aspects and different sports or whatever, I still think everyone has a healthy respect for one another, and it just, it makes it more of a fun event. It's
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Last night when I was doing the Patriots Challenge football game, and you're giving me crap about how the uh, Green Bay, Wisconsin dude is programming games to give Boston bias, and watching the chat go back and forth. It's not true. He hates the Bears. He's not pro Patriot. He's pro Packer, for crying out loud. Anyway, watch it go back and forth, and we're all having fun with each other. And
exactly.
people who aren't necessarily big sports fans, like our friend Bobby Catalano, she seems to really enjoy it because, yes, whatever you're playing, you're giving serious attention to. Whether it's congratulations, by the way, on finishing that inside pitch replay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit because I want to
Yeah, oh,
actually
absolutely.
get
But
into that.
to watch the chat go back and forth. Dave Gardner joking with me that since the Rams were going to win, that he was going to pull up the voodoo doll and make sure that Montreal lost 22-0 or whatever. It's all in great fun, and so you don't even necessarily have to be a big fan of this whatever sporting event that we're doing. Just have a good time, and that's what this is all about. Is just having a good time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think just like I said, building the community together and just supporting one another and just having fun. Just even if it's teasing one another about what happens or their game or their team or whatever. It's just a lot of fun to do that. So I think I know Baseball Demos did this before, so I'm glad we interviewed him on our live chat, and somebody mentioned that, and I said it was a good suggestion that he get and do it again. So I think actually I'm not trying to take any credit, no credit. I'm not taking any credit. I'm just saying we inspired his brilliance to come
Right.
back out again. That's all I'm saying.
And I saw in the chat, I didn't mean to say that it was not a good game. I guess he just did the 87 Braves and got good stats with it. That's great. I think in a macro sense, and you can see it, and it just presents it in a very different way. Baseball Demos is quite the little jokester.
He is Mr. What's the word I'm looking for?
He is the class cut up.
He is. He uses his phrases and stuff. I was laughing the other day when it was. He was doing a game where one of the guys that was pitching was like Christmas, and the guy that was on batting was like tree, and it was like something about if Christmas struck out tree, it'd be something. It was just funny. I can't even remember. It was because I was laughing so
He
hard.
was talking about Steve Christmas when I was doing a California Angel game not too long ago, and of course Bobby Gritch and Steve.
Oh,
Christmas.
that's what it was. Yeah, that's
Steve
right. It was
Christmas was the
The Grinch
catcher.
who stole Christmas. Right. I know.
The Grinch who stole off Christmas. I mean, that just. I told my wife about that. She's like, most of the stuff I do is just glazes her eyes, but explain that. Yeah, just too funny. Here's the guy that does what he does games and loving his White Sox and 77 stuff. Just comes across as very low key, and you're looking over in the chat, and you hear me start to crack up. You just cracked up. I mean, yeah, it's just great.
Yeah, but a lot of times, just watching you guys do your thing, except for, I've been to your baseball game today, which I won't spoil. And you had your football game last night.
That was fun.
And those last two games you played were some memorable moments, huh?
It's always nice when you can pick the teams that you want to play. And, I set up to make sure that you're not getting try not to get any dog matchups. It happens. You're going to get the 14-0 baseball games and the 45-3 football games and the whatevers. But, you're trying to stack the deck in your favor. And in the last couple of days, by God, we've had it work. And when it works, it's great. And it's great fun. And, yeah, I know you weren't too thrilled with some results, and we're happy with others. But
Well, I just know you lost a subscriber. I mean, that's all.
you'll be back.
I
You'll be
will be back. I
you'll
will
be.
be back. I got you on fast style, buddy. You're not going anywhere.
But they're fun games, and we've taken the last 3 Sundays. I've gone through each of the individual. I still have to do the basketball game, but through some of the inner details of how the action PC games work, and you can be quite simple with them, and you can be quite super detailed with them. I mean, the depth of those games are amazing. I think all the games that we play, going back to history, the ones that you played, the inside pitch, the NPNG plus, and Rob's doing that with the Red Sox in 2018. That these games can play fast, but they're detailed.
Yep. Yep. And as you mentioned, since we're talking about it, I don't want to, switch subjects because there's, lots I would like to talk about. I mean,
Sure.
but as you mentioned, I completed my 1989 Kansas City Royals replay, all 162 games.
Congratulations. That is
Thank
no
you.
easy feat.
And to be honest, when I first started, I did not realize 162 games is a marathon. They talk about it all the time. When you hear the announcers talking, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. But I'm telling you what, it is a marathon. So anybody else that is out there that has completed a full season replay, I mean, kudos to you. I take my hat off because it took everything out of me that I thought I could do just to get this one season done.
How did the Royals finish overall?
I finished at 96 and 62, 98.
If you lost 62, you won 100.
I'm sorry?
If you
No,
lost,
I was 90. I was 90. I was 96 wins.
that's great.
The Royals in real life were 92 wins. So I was 4 above what they did in real life.
That's certainly acceptable.
Yeah.
One of the things is, it's a long season and you play against teams that are terrible, or the players you're rooting for slump, or I don't know if you played with any injuries or not. Someone that you wanted was injured half the year. Case both strikes out a lot. George Brett had to go to the CVS to get some more preparation H or whatever. I mean, yeah, it becomes a slog. I mean, I'm just doing this 2 or 3 game a week baseball thing, and I'm finally almost halfway home. I was like, oh my God, it just keeps going and going and going. So congratulations on doing
Yeah,
that.
it was like I said, it was a struggle. I knew I took some time away. The first, when you get into this project, the first 30, 40 games goes
You
good.
fly.
Then I'm sorry?
You fly right through them.
Yeah. I mean, you're so excited and everything's going great. But after about 30, 40 games, all of a sudden you hit a brick wall and it's like, well, I have 120 more games. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me?
Imagine how the real players feel.
I know.
They sit there and you go into spring training and have the nice weather, and then you come up in the Northeast. We were watching Bryce Harper's return back to Washington before we went live, and the weather is crappy, and It's cold, it's rainy. I'm like, and yep, you get to do this for 6 more months.
Wow. Yeah. We got a few more people in the chat now. So hello to Bobby Catalano. We also have MP Fox. We have D. Scott Howard, who says, I've done 4 full team replays on Out of the Park in the past 3 years.
Mhm.
Every time about game 100, I question my sanity.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
You know,
I
I think
remember at game 100, I said, 60 more games. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it because it's going to take you at least a half an hour per game, and you're thinking that's like 120 more hours I've got of this. And I want to spend another 120 hours of my or 12 hours of my life playing these games? I don't know if I want to do it.
at least the Royals were good. I don't know who D. Scott Howard was playing. There's a friend of the community, Combat Painter. I think you've seen him in a couple of my games, and he might come to some of yours. The poor guy is playing the 79 Mets, and he's halfway home through the season. I
Yeah.
mean, there's masochism, there's 50 Shades of Grey, and then there's playing the Mets season from the late 70s. My God. But, he grew up in the area, and so it's a childhood attachment, as it often is for most of us, and more power to him.
Hey, we do have to say hello to Sports Time Machine as well, who is actually did a live stream from the ballpark tonight.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't get a chance to check it out, but I think he was going to try and do a little bit of a live stream. I think he was going to the Utah BYU game. So big shout out to Sports Time Machine. We'll definitely check out what he did from the ballpark. We also have Dane Gardner, who's out at the rink tonight. So we got some people checking in out and about. So,
Dave's
so
having a
that's
rough
good.
night. Hopefully it'll get better.
And Rob is cutting out cards tonight. And so hopefully learn from my expertise advice because I've now cut out about 13 different seasons of between payoff pitch, inside pitch, even as I cut out a season of National Pastime Next Generation Plus. I did baseball, dice baseball, a season of the 1990 dice baseball season. So I am the cutting master. If you want to know how to cut something, let me know. I'll show you how.
So when are you going to actually, learn how to cut vegetables or something like that?
That's out of my realm. I only know how to. I only know how to cut cards. That's all I know how to do.
So are you relatively new to the cards because you've bought a lot of stuff recently or gotten your hands on stuff. Is this relatively new for you?
No, I've been card and dicing for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah, but I just, when I started getting onto YouTube, I was mostly doing computer games, not even sports games, just computer games in general. And so then when I was going to do a sports game, it was going to be on the computer. So because when you're doing the card and dice thing, another thing is when you're doing the cards and dice is you got to have time to input all that stuff in if you want to keep track of stats and all that. So you got to have another program or you got to have an Excel sheet or something, and
Oh, absolutely.
you got to spend all that time inputting your stats and everything. So I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. I'm gonna if I'm gonna do it on, it's gonna have to be on the computer. And I just, before I moved down to Florida, as I mentioned in my Stratomatic video that I did the other day, I used to have probably 20 or 30 different seasons of Stratomatic between football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. I had probably 10 or 15 baseball, probably 10 hockey, just a couple seasons of basketball because I'm not a big basketball guy, but I wanted it, and then just a couple seasons of football because I didn't think the football season was good, but I got a couple seasons of that. So I had a bunch of it. I'd even had APA hockey and APA baseball back in the day, and a couple other. I actually had, replay baseball. At one point, they had an actual football game they were selling there
Oh,
too.
really? Was it Pete Ventura's or?
Trying to remember the name of it, but they were basically whoever was designing and developing it took a break from it, and they had it on their channel for like maybe like a 6 to 8 year period, and then they gave it back to the guy. So I'm not sure who it was or what the name of it was, but that's how I actually got involved in the replay baseball. Was I was looking for the football game.
I can't imagine actually pulling out the cards and dice to play replay baseball, just because the amount of dice rolls that you need to go through. And I mean, it's a good game. It's a believable engine, but by God, when you have 3 or 4 rolls sometimes to resolve one batter, that would just drive me crazy. So I'll have to keep.
Well, speaking of which, let's talk about the different systems and games. So I just talked about the fact that I completed my inside pitch. And after I completed it, I actually spent about a half an hour to an hour, or I don't know how long it was, and we actually sat down and looked at the stats after the end of the season to see how they compared with real life. And I'm telling you, Ron, check out the last 30 minutes of this video I did today if you want to
I'll
check out
definitely
inside.
take a look. I mean,
They are scary good. Scary good. I mean, there are, just in the batting, I'm thinking they had about, what do we have, about 20 players, 25 players, whatever there was. We had at least 6 or 7 of them that matched their ER or their batting average exactly.
that's
Like
perfect.
274, 274, or maybe
That's
1 point
incredible.
off. And I'm like, we had players that had the exact amount of home runs. Danny Tartable had 18 or 19. I forget what it was. I think it was 18 home runs. He ended up with 18 home runs in our replay after 162 games. He
That's
ended up with the.
amazing, because there are no checks on when you do a pure cards and dice replay. If someone hits, that home run is in the right spot and the dice just happen to hit it. I mean, that's one of the main complaints against Strat. I mean, how do you get Bob Gibson to a 1.12 ERA in 1968, or someone like Dennis Eckersley who walked 5 batters in 80 innings or whatever it was? How do you do that? Well, you've just shown that it can be done on that inside pitch engine. I'm doing Ball Holla. I did the video on it, and that's a complex game. Doing it through an Excel spreadsheet and keeping the stats on ball stat, ball score. And through 18 games, the Red Sox batting average matches what their real life number was. Oh, that's pretty spooky. But again, it's all when things are limited to 36 chances as they are on those cards and on like APA. It's amazing. You look at the end of the year and found, it works.
Well, I mean, law of averages, I guess, is what Stratomatic is based on, because when you got a 50-50 split, if I'm the best pitcher in the world, but it's not coming off of my card,
Right.
you're not going to get my stats. You're going to get the batter's stats. You know what I'm saying? So I guess in the long run, if you do the sim long enough, they're hoping that the 50-50 split comes back into line,
The one
and
thing that Strat does that APA and Replay don't do is that the dice results are weighted. So the most common results are sitting there on a 6, 7, and 8 dice roll, as opposed to when you play APA, you're based on the board. But if you got a home run on that 6-6, it's a home run. You have an equal chance of hitting a home run or a ground ball to second. But still, there's enough people who played APA over the years with full season replays or single team replays to show that the system primarily works. It's been tweaked over the years, but it depends on what your definition of acceptable is.
Yeah, and I did have, I did a couple comparison videos between Stratomatic and Inside Pitch, and also Payoff Pitch, and a couple commenters. I'm not calling anybody out. Okay, this is just a couple commenters that mentioned, hey, Stratomatic has shown, okay, that there are historically accurate their results. You can't prove to me the payoff pitch or inside pitch is just his historically or statistically accurate at this point. I said, well, here's the thing. I'm going to be finishing a replay in a couple days, and we'll look at the stats and see.
I'd
Um,
love to take payoff pitch for a spin. I really wish that he would have some sort of helper or something like that. I mean, just so I could do it, because I've watched some of your games and Combat Painters games, and I love that interaction. That the pitcher may not be as extreme as what inside pitch is, but you can tell from how a pitcher pitches, basically what column set you're going to get the dice result, the play result number on. And unlike Strat, it gives you some variety. Sometimes it's the ballpark, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's bad. But again, with cards and dice games, it's all about building that tension between your ears anyway.
yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of that in there.
You know,
The only thing that really kept me going with the Bo Jackson replay was the fact that I'm, basically kind of going into, um, oh, okay, he's throwing that down the middle, and all this stuff to kind of visualize what's going on. When instead of a G4, I have to
right.
visualize to keep me going involved and keep me involved in it.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the one difference I think between the cards that pure cards and dice and the computer games, the OTP and the Action PC is, yes, you can get a greater amount of games played in an amount of time, but you don't have to use your imagination as much, and that can be good or bad depending on what it is. Now,
Yeah, I agree. I think with inside pitch when it goes 6-4 and I look and it's home run, that's different than watching you run um, your action PC game and you see the ball starting to head out, and I could feel you, and it's gone. That's different than looking at 6-4 to find out a home run.
right. But for someone who, obviously 99.8% of those people who own Action PC Sports aren't streaming it. And so how does it stay, whichever the games that you're playing, how does it stay exciting for those of you instead of just button pressing? Do you call the game in your head? I mean, I think we all do that to some extent. Um, what kind of aspect are you taking to make it exciting for you? And so it's not just a button mashing contest. And I think
Uh,
that's the one advantage with the cards and dice is you got to do all the work with that. Yeah, you're
that,
gonna, and
that,
that's
yeah, yeah, that
yeah,
is very true. That is very true. To keep people entertained and engaged, because I noticed the Bo Jackson replay videos. Obviously started off strong, but probably lost a lot of viewers along the way because at game 16-7 they don't, it's like, oh, I didn't see game 50s, I didn't see any of the 60s, I didn't see any 70s. I'm not going to try to catch up and find out what's going on with this or anything. So
yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm sure your energy level flag, like, oh God, here's 6 games with the Mariners, and the Mariners suck. And so we've got, you got a home against Seattle, maybe down to California, and Angels are a decent team, or maybe in '89 you got lucky and went to Oakland, which who cleaned everyone's clocks that year, and then you go up to play Seattle again. Oh, great. Well, at least in '89 they had Griffey, but um,
yeah, because obviously when the Yankees and the Red Sox, you play those games, a lot of viewers, a lot of people interested watching and stuff. You go out and play Cleveland. Cleveland has a pretty big following as well, but you play other teams that don't, like Seattle, like you mentioned Seattle. Um, I didn't see a lot of people popping in saying "Go Mariners." There's maybe one person that did that, but uh, yeah, it's a long season. It's a long haul, and like I said, I have total new respect for anybody that's done it out there. I know Baseball Demos mentioned he was in the live stream that he has completed a couple, or I think he said one or two, and it took him 2 years to complete one of them. So.
I've done in Strat. I did the 2006 Mets and Red Sox. And for the Red
Wow.
Sox, it was a grind because they fell apart. And the Mets had Pedro Martinez. That was when Pedro was good. And actually, I got the Mets to the World Series. They lost to the Blue Jays, believe it or not. Anyway, but those are the ones that you remember. I've started in several different engines to do a full season replay of 1978, and I get like 3 weeks into it and going, I can't imagine what it's going to be like once teams are 10, 15 games out trying to get through those, and I just can't do it. And so even getting the single team one is, pretty remarkable.
Well, I think I'm going to take a break from the long replays. That's why I introduced my new 1995 Seattle Mariners replay. It's just going to be a snippet of the whole thing. The chase for the pennant, the last 30 games of the season, and the drive to the finish line to come back from 13 games down.
In August.
Yeah, in August.
That was even greater than what the Yankees did to the Red Sox in '78.
Yeah.
That was in mid-July when that started. I look at the standings in my E2 replay going, they need help if they're going to do it. I think your Cardinals are 10.5 games back now and going, they need help. They need Montreal to go south. Maybe not to Washington, but and so for Seattle to catch fire, the 51 Giants did the same thing. They were down double digits to the Brooklyn Dodgers in the second half of the year and came back and forced that great playoff. So that's
I think I counted in Seattle was 22-7 coming down the line for the last 29 games. Yeah. And that only forced the 1-game playoff. People forget that they had to actually at the end of the season, they were tied with California, so they had to play California in a 1-game playoff to find out who was going to the playoffs.
Right.
Then they had to play the Yankees, which was, I forget their record, but they were like, nobody expected Seattle to win at all.
Heavily favored.
And it was coming true because the Yankees crushed them the first 2 games. I think they outscored them those first 2 games 19-2 or something amazing like that. It was like a blowout. So I thought, I don't know if I have it in me to do another 162 game replay, but I want to have something that people connect to, that I can get done in a reasonable amount of time. People aren't going to want to come to 162 videos just to try and keep up on things. Maybe 20 to 30 games. I mean, that's not too hard for people to be able to manage and stuff. Kind of what you're doing, right? I mean, you're only playing like one game, a couple games a week, right?
It's like 3 games a week. Some weeks will be 4. Then we'll look at the last couple of weeks to see what's out there, and kind of like I did with the football. I mean, the last week I did the 78 football season, I ended up doing 6 games, and that was way too many. But they were all winning in games for prospective teams, and so when teams that needed to get that in that wild card game kept losing, I had to go out and play another game. You're not going to say, okay, here you go. Here's your team that you might have watched 4 or 5 teams or times all year. Here you go. Sorry, they're in the playoffs because I just quit. You just feel like you're doing it. But it's easier for the baseball because you know that it's only three games, maybe 4. It's a set time. You get to choose what you're playing. So there's really no dead teams. The Yankees were okay, and the Red Sox should have been a lot better. So when people voted for the season too. So I figured, okay, we'll have our share of Red Sox and or Yankee games, which always, as you say, draw well. And here they are. They're both well out of the race. These were 4 divisions decided by less than 2 games in real life. And I have one division that's under 5 games. I think, Chicago's, I think, 4 behind California. So you just never know. But yeah, you're right. It's nice to be able to pick because that would be tough. I mean, one thing, you can start a season, you go through, you go hot and heavy for a couple of weeks, you put it away, you go hot and heavy again when you feel like it, then you stop. But doing the games live, and again, Al Red Sox fan is the one that convinced me to do them live because I had actually gotten almost halfway through the 64 season and taping them. Makes it worthwhile because sometimes, okay, here we go. And you get going in the chat and you're just having a good time. I think I've said this to you before. I'm not a huge football fan, but we've had some magnificent football games.
Absolutely. And
and we've been fun to do.
I meaning to ask you, and maybe I had asked you when we did our interview, or maybe it was in chat, I forget. But you decided to do the Patriots challenge, is what you're calling it.
Yeah, we haven't
And
talked about this just
how
yet.
did you come up? I'm sorry.
We haven't talked about this.
Okay, so
How did I
so
come up
people
with it?
might not know what we're talking about. Why don't you just kind of introduce it to them?
I was going through my YouTube numbers, and they were starting to sag. I mean, there's people who do love baseball, but let's face it, football is the best, the most watched sport in the country. And okay, I need to figure out a football. I didn't want to do a full season or a season replay. We're going to do that again in the fall. We're going to do 1986 in the fall. Um, Pretty much the same way we did, mirroring the real life weeks. And so I figured, let me come up with a short 6-game thing. Not a huge fan of the what ifs, but watching Al stuff is fun. And so I figured, there was so many Patriot fans that watch my stuff that I said, okay, here's the team that fell short in the Super Bowl. They went 16-0. They went 18-1. Are they really as great as people think they are? Let's match them up against some of the great teams of all time. And so I think one day in the chat, who do you want them to play? And so all the teams were picked by viewers.
Yeah,
Uh,
I believe I picked the Bills, the
you,
1990 Bills for you.
yep, you did. A friend of mine picked the 91 Redskins. That game's coming up. 72 Dolphins, and everyone wants to see him against the 85 Bears. And so that's what it was. Just play them on a neutral site with the Patriot logo on the field, and it's been fun. I expected them to go 4-4, and they're 2-2 halfway through it. So it's a different type of thing, and some eras don't necessarily mix as well with others. I'm surprised. Going back to that 72 Dolphin game, you don't think they're going to. Defensively, they're good. I've never had a football game where the team that won only threw 10 passes.
Oh, wow.
And that was the case. And so, it's much more of a learning thing, I think, for me as well. I knew the Rams when I'll tell you a story about how the Rams got in there. It was only going to be 6 teams. I really just wanted a short, finishable project because, like as you said, you go, here, let's do this 17,000 team college thing. And okay, by the second, who the hell wants to watch this? I don't. And I'm sure you don't either. I was talking with you or someone else, and I put my email address out there, and I got a long letter from somebody who was not, I won't give the name, who was not feeling very well, and said, I would really appreciate, if you could squeeze this in, could you squeeze in a certain team? Yeah, I'll squeeze in the certain team. So I turned it into an 8, and so the 99 Rams got thrown in the mix, and boy, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, it was a game.
Yeah.
I'm not spoiling anything for anyone, but if you've not watched the video from it was last night
Yeah.
on Ron's channel, Retro Sports Network, go check it out. It was a game, and don't turn it off and don't fast forward because it was a fun one to watch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, we have our certain friends that we hear from all the time in the chat, but every once in a while I'll hear from somebody that I don't know, have no connection to whatsoever, and they'll talk to me about whatever. And I'm sure you've gotten some of that too, either if it's not through your sports or through your D&D. And it's good to see Mike McAllister was in the chat. I don't know if he's still there or not. And it's like, yeah, you're reaching out to people that you don't even know. And so it's more that it's just a bigger connection than just numbers on a YouTube chart.
Yeah, we got Tyrion Hobbyist is in the chat,
Ooh.
so nice to see Tyrion Hobbyist. Guys, check out his wonderful military strategy channel. Great community member here, supports us. We love to support him as well. He's saying, I'm having a hard time getting through my short MLS tournament with Soccer Blast. I can't imagine doing 162 games.
I mean, I've got a basketball replay, a couple basketball replays kind of on the back burner because I wanted to do other things. And yeah, what if you aren't fully, you start it and go, really? Are people really paying attention to this, or am I really having fun? I mean, it's all about having fun. I mean, you can put anything up as long as you're having fun. But yeah, if you're having trouble with that, or if it's players that you can't really relate to, or in a tournament situation, God, if you get the team that you want to win gets busted in the first round, how do you go? Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah. We also have, and we talked about this in the beginning, but maybe we could go over it a little bit because we've
sure.
got a lot of people coming in the chat. We also have the losing pitcher from game one has arrived in the chat.
Oh, has he?
He has. And he's still throwing at people's heads out there.
Well, he did all right. Didn't do as well as I did, but he did all right.
He did all right himself. Mr. Shenanigans himself, Clinton Parks. How you doing, buddy? Hope all is well with you tonight, Clinton. So, yeah, we had a great matchup. I was hoping to talk to Al Red Sox fan tonight because he is going to be my game 2 starter. It's going to be Stratomatic Delaware versus Al Red Sox fan. Another wonderful matchup. I think it's going to be a fun thing. It's going to be tomorrow night, so April 3rd, about 8 o'clock. He's going to be following you tomorrow night. Isn't that right?
I've got the Orioles and Tigers tomorrow night at 7, and I think he'll follow shortly after that with you and Robbie. How did you get picked to do that as a manager?
I think I don't know how Dave did it, but I noticed there was some good going back and forth between me and Beatles Eternally, which I think we should just spend a second and just say, Beatles Eternally. I'm not sure, so don't ask, but I know he's going through a difficult situation, a personal situation, and he's kind of been taking a step back out of the community for a little bit to just have some spare time or some free time for himself and not being involved in things. So we wish him all the best luck, and hopefully everything will turn out great for him. We are thinking about him. We want to support him. In fact, I did a Pittsburgh Pirates game the other day dedicated to him, and he came into the chat and thanks. It meant a lot to me for you to do this. So we just want him to know that we are thinking about him. We hope everything goes well with them and everything. But there was this tension between me and him. He come to my live streams. I go to his live streams. We had a good rivalry going between the dead ball and the modern day era. And we had a lot of people getting involved in that discussion back and forth. So I think David from Baseball Demos just rolled with that. And he was going to create a dead ball league and a modern day league and put us to get, against one another to find out, maybe to get us to all shut up about it. Which
No, and he says that I saw in the chat that he said this doesn't come across that he has fun, but he does. And no, you can tell when you go through and go through the old newspapers or talk about music. Having fun doesn't mean that you sit there and being chuckles the clown about things and having a good laugh. It has to do with caring about what you do. That's the fun part, that you want to continue to do it. And sometimes it just goes, what sounds good as you're tossing and turning at night does in reality just doesn't come out all that well. Like I said, I mean, there's things that started that don't get finished. And there's other things that, I'm doing the live replays forced me to probably finish projects I probably wouldn't have finished. You get, I think, especially with the football, but that was fun. Not fun in a stand up Jimmy Walker type way, but fun is the fact that people get into it. When the Patriots lost to the Steelers in the conference championship game, you could tell that people maybe weren't affected like they would be if they really had watched that, but you could just feel the energy that they were disappointed that these virtual, zeros and ones didn't do what they had wanted them to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's like, okay, I get it. I get it. And I was disappointed when the Patriots crashed out. I'm not a Patriot fan. And I
Well,
certainly
I think
nineteen.
it all comes back to what you said, and I'm going to kind of piggyback on that the opposite way. When I talk about myself, you last night were having a ton of fun. I could just imagine now you had your game on the screen so we couldn't see you, but your smile must have been ear to ear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You sit there and go, I mean, the computer made the mistake and it just added a whole other level there. You kind of, when you when you hit that button to go live, you hope for games like last night. You are hoping that everyone gets involved. When, in a baseball game, of course, over a long season, you expect people to chat about other things. How you doing? What's new? They're listening, but they're kind of half listening, and that's fine. But at one point, I think in the early second half, I looked over and that chat was silent. And I'm looking up at the stream number. It's 13, 12, 13 people watching. No one is leaving and the chat is silent, and they're as into it as you are, or as
Yep.
I, and that's what you got something going on. You know, ID, when I covered the Nats, when I finally covered a team day in and day out, and they finally got home after the winter and to start the 17 season, you get addicted to that crowd noise because you're all rooting for the same thing. In this particular case, it was a real life team. But you get into it to the point that, yeah, you feed off it. And so, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it works as almost as a trifecta. You have your game that's good, you have your announcer that's good, that makes the chat good, and if everything goes well, those three things merge together and make a great performance for everyone. The broadcaster's happy because they're enjoying what they're doing. The game is good, whether it turns out to be a nail biter or not, it's still a good game because everybody's involved. And then, of course, your chat gets involved because your announcer's having a good time and they're having a good time, which makes the game good. So it's
Right.
kind of a three-headed prong that when it all works together, and that's where I think I've been doing kind of a bad job. As I mentioned with this 162 game replay, if I had to do it over again, I would not have done it because I know for at least the last 60 games of the season, I had no heart in it. I was just going through the motions. I was trying to make it fun, but I know my viewers were probably coming out watching and going, IDJester's just not into this anymore. He's just going through the motions. I could tell it because I just didn't have the energy. I was just okay. I'm going to try and get 2 games tonight or 3 games done. I'm just going to rush through it as fast as I possibly can. Now tonight, when I had my game 161 and 162, and I knew this is it, I had more fun tonight talking to the chat and just watching what's going on than I've had in the last 40 or 50 games.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could definitely tell. I mean, the viewership goes down. I'm not having as much fun. The viewers aren't having as much fun. They're talking about other things. They can care less what happens in the actual game, and doesn't make it fun for anyone. So I take I'm just showing this because I think we have really good lessons to learn because the difference between your game last night and my game, I did a quadruple header last night. I had 6 games left. And I'm like, I don't want to play 3 tonight and 3 tomorrow. So I did a quadruple header, 4 games. And I'm telling you, the difference between my live stream and your live stream was like night and day.
Well, I think the difference is that, you're finishing a long term project. And if you're flagging, then everyone else is going to flag along with it. You never know when you're doing a one off like that. The one thing I learned, the first time that you look over and you realize that no one is really paying attention to you, it kind of feels weird. But when you're doing a baseball game, baseball is a conversational sport anyway. Football demands your attention from the start. Baseball, yeah, okay. When it got serious late in today's game, people paid attention, and you could control a lot of that through voice. I can't sing. I really can't. No matter what Robbie Wartburg says, you can't sing. I can sing, but there is something musical about calling an event, and you got to know, when to be excited and when to let your crowd just kind of do what it wants to do, and throw in the occasional joke. I mean, last night in the middle of in the overtime of that game, Todd B, who's also a prankster, says, "Oh, you shouldn't go all Heidi on us." And okay,
That
guess
was
what we're
a good
gonna
moment.
do?
That was a great moment.
And it's like, yeah, you just learn to interact with that. But I think that's one of the advantages of streaming a computer game, because it can do the rest of the work for you. So let's say that if you knew coming down the stretch that Kansas City needed to take three out of their last 7 to possibly give Oakland a run for its money, you approach that a lot different from going, I don't know what else is going on here. We're going to assume that Oakland has won this division by 80 miles, and we're playing out the string in September, despite the fact that you got 96 wins out of a team. You did better. I think that's a type of difference that, maybe a computer game can offer, as opposed to
Yeah.
just a pure cards and dice game. I'm not putting down cards and dice games at all, but that's the thing. And sometimes things just don't work.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of lessons to learn, and I think it makes you better for the next time. I think this project with the 1995 Seattle, we talked about it. When you go into a new project, the first 10, 15, 20 games, you're all excited, you're all hyped up, you're ready to go. And then, when I'm doing this project, after 15 games, it's going to be halfway done already.
Right.
So the finish line is going to be like right there. I'm halfway done already.
And
So
from what Seattle has to do, that the more they win, the better chance that they have to pull it off. So there's a goal at the end. That they have to go 22-7 down the stretch to pull it off. The funny thing is that wild card, that game 163 was played on the day of the O.J. Simpson verdict.
oh, was it? I did
Yes.
not know that.
October 3rd, 1995. And
Ah,
so I remember having it on, but still just kind of in an absolute daze because he
because
got
of
away.
what was going on with OJ.
That's right.
Wow.
So yeah. It's just things that you learn, that we all learn going through whatever projects that we do. Sometimes they're lessons we don't necessarily want to learn, not pointing out anything in particular, but you got to be, as I said, interested and also get your audience interested in it as well. And if people can tell, you can't fake it. You really can't fake it.
Yeah.
I don't want to use you as an example. I mean, one of the things that makes Al such a captivating watch is that he wears his emotions on his sleeve. And so when things are going, I mean, look what he's done with the 77 Mets. He's gotten them with a winning record in July. Now, I think I told you this when we did the formal live chat with me. I went to a Mets game that year. First game I ever went to was August 9th, 1977. Had the chicken pox, sat at Shea Stadium. That place, looking back now, was a funeral parlor. They had traded away Tom Seaver. It was the son of Sam Summer. They'd had the bad blackout. I mean, who in their right mind would want to? And the Mets sucked. And they really sucked after they traded Tom Seaver away. Al, because of the way that he does things, has made that must watch. If you see the Mets logo, I wake up in the morning and I see the Mets logo there, like, yeah, what's he going to do with his team? And it comes down to, how things are presented. And it's not fake. You can't fake that.
Yeah. I think we're not trying to preach to anybody out there, but
No,
I'm telling you, you're coming from two, people that have experienced a lot of YouTube stuff. When Al does his games, he's in it 100%. And I think I don't care what the game is, if it's cards and dice, computer version, or whatever. If you're going into it with 100% and you're excited about it, you're going to make your viewers excited about it, which is again going to roll over to the game, which rolls back to you because your people are excited about it, which makes you excited about it, which makes the game more exciting, and it's just like a big snowball, and it keeps going. I think Dave from Baseball Demos is going to have a much better success with his 1977 replay than I will with my 1989 Kansas City replay. It'll be the same number of games, and everything, but Dave is he has a connection with that season. He's excited about it. It's his favorite season. Every game is interesting. He makes it interesting. You can tell he's excited about it. He wants to share his information with you. He wants to share his memories. He wants to get you back into the feeling of being actually at the game in 1977, and that all rubs off on the viewers again. When then that goes back to the game, and then the game goes back to the broadcaster, and again this big snowball. Dave will stay excited about the 1977 season. I couldn't stay excited about the 1989 Kansas City Royals. Bo Jackson, one of my favorite players of all time, but after 50 or 60 games, I about had it with Bo Jackson and his strikeouts. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and that doesn't, his athleticism doesn't translate well to the tabletop because you can't. I don't know what his how that game does the fielding ratings off the top of my head, but you're not going to see him climbing walls or rob homers or throwing out runners at third from right field on one hop. You know, I was thinking as you said that. I bet if you did a Cardinal season, maybe 2004, and you win that World Series. They went 108 games in the regular year, played out magnificent LCS against the Astros. That would have been considered an all-time classic if it wasn't for what was going on between Boston and New York. And I wonder if you would enjoy that more because you have an emotional investment in the Cardinals. You definitely want to see the Cardinals succeed. When you had Tenacious Earl on, I really don't know a lot of the backstory about what did he do, 08 or 09 for the Phillies? Did the World Series win or the year they lost? I think it was 08, right?
I think it was 08, yeah.
So they win the World Series, and I don't remember what the standings were that particular year, but if you know at the end of the rainbow what is supposed to happen, and it doesn't happen that way, and you've invested, and if you're a Phillies fan, look, if you're old enough to remember 1980, that was their first world title since 1915. So it's not like the Phillies are rolling around in World Series glory. Yeah, you're wrapped up in it. You want to see him win. You are rooting for him big time. And when it don't happen, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it.
Yeah, and I think there is. Okay, so we've been talking about being excited about your projects, and as a YouTuber, taking that excitement to your broadcasts and stuff. The downside of that is what happens when you're too invested in it and things don't go your way. If I'm replaying, say, the 2011 Cardinals, and all of a sudden they start falling out, they're in third place. All of a sudden, then I'm not invested again. You know
That's
what I'm
why
saying?
I don't do Red Sox replays online.
Yeah, that's
Just
why
for that
I,
reason.
I think we nothing against Tanisha Earl. He's a great guy. I think he was wrapped up with the Phillies. He's a diehard. He had some issues during the replay with that. Just dealing with the emotions of the up and down. You know how baseball is. I mean, we got
It's
teams. We got some great baseball teams in 2019. Red Sox. What are they? 1-4.
yeah, and look
You
bad
know,
doing it.
and they look bad. Houston Astros were, they beat Texas last night, but they looked awful in their first couple 3 or 4 games as well. I mean, there are a lot of good baseball teams that look like crap right now.
And it's
And
the second
so
of April. I
baseball
mean, it's
baseball is an up and down season, and if you can't handle the ups and downs, uh, you're going to have a rough time bringing a good broadcast to your community, to your viewers.
and it
And we
doesn't
know,
doesn't
Absolutely.
necessarily be about sports either. I know there's quite a few people who watch your stuff that aren't necessarily sports fans. I mean, our dear friend Bobby Catalano, she's on the panel for, is it Battlestar Galactica or is it Game of, LMR does Game of Thrones. Love her chair, by the way. Never watched the show, will
Yeah.
never watch the show, but I love that chair. That's awesome. It's whatever that group experience of whatever it is that you want to share. I'll the OG Devin, who I hope is feeling better, when he did that unboxing of that Gunslinger game. Did you see that? It apparently was the first real game he bought back at 12 or 13 years old. And so someone got him a very clean copy of it. And just the unbridled joy that he went through when he opened it and saw what was in there and yeah. I mean,
I believe, and I might be mistaken on this, but I'm almost 100% sure it was Iterian Hobbyist, one of
yeah,
our fellow community members, had heard that heard that OG liked this game or had mentioned it in one of his live streams. Heard that he liked it and got a hold of this game somehow and sent it to him, knowing that he would appreciate it much more than himself. So big shout out to Iterian Hobbyist for doing that for a community member out there. Again, we have a like you said, it's not all sports.
no.
It doesn't matter what you do. Before I started the live stream, LMR was doing another live stream of Game of Thrones, and if you watched my live stream with her 3 weeks ago, I know zero about live Game of Thrones. I know nothing. I've watched part of season 1 and that's it. I haven't read any of the books or anything. But I go and watch her because she is into it. She makes it fun. She makes it interesting. And I think that's why Elle is so successful and some of our other YouTubers out here is because every time they broadcast, they are 100% invested. They love what they're doing.
For the hour and a half, I'm the world's biggest football fan because I'm not going to do something I really don't enjoy. And I get just as wrapped up into it as everyone else, and it's fun and it works. And I don't know about you, but I'm always have a little bit of butterflies before I hit that F4 for my streaming software to start the stream because I don't know, and I think that's a good way to feel. If you feel like it's kind of old pat and all that, then there's something missing.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think I'm going to try to probably change some of the content that I do because more is not necessarily better.
Right? No, absolutely.
More is, I mean, if you want to stream 5 times a day just because you think if I put 5 videos out, that's going to be 5 times as much. If you can't put in the dedication, the emotion, the connection that you have, the you know the feelings into your broadcast, and like you said, you shouldn't be doing it because that's people aren't going to come to listen to you bitch and moan and complain about something you don't like.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Viewers come, they come to be entertained, or they come to learn something, out of tutorial videos and stuff like that. People will come and watch to learn how to play something, or you would broadcast the new game, the old game that you're just reintroducing. What was the name of that again?
For which sport? Baseball.
Yeah, for the baseball.
I did a thing on Valhalla, which is pretty much been
Valhalla.
a dead game
Yeah,
for the
so
last 10
you
years.
were
Yeah.
kind of teaching people a little bit about Valhalla because I
Yeah.
never heard of it, and stuff like that. So, um, if you're not coming to be entertained, you're coming to learn something. And if you're not being entertained and you're not learning anything, people aren't going to stick around. They're not going to watch. Your views are going to go down. It doesn't matter if you put out 10 videos a day or one good video or one good video a week. If you're into it, then it's going to show your people are going to be more into it and they're going to enjoy it more, which means they're going to get more views, which means you're going to be happier. And it's, like I said, a big circle around there. So
It's funny that you say that, because now that the weather's getting good up here again, and I'd like to spend some time with my wife and, do more things on the computer at night. But I've developed a reputation, good, bad, or indifferent, of being the guy that does sports at lunch. And people seem to be disappointed when I don't do anything at lunch. Okay, I'll do more stuff at lunchtime then, just because that's when people expect it, and that's fine. I mean, it's not going to hurt my relationship. She's been with me for 23 years. It's not like, oh, what do you mean? We spend time together at other times, but people learn to expect things from you at certain times. It's important to be regular, whether, as you said, whether it's once a week, or if you're going to say I'm doing a baseball game on a Tuesday afternoon, that you do a baseball game on a Tuesday afternoon. And if you're going to differ from that, you better plan it 2 or 3 weeks in advance, because people come to expect you to do whatever it is that you're going to do at a certain time. And that's fine. You learn from your viewers. It's different from television and radio in that sense. Although I think even with these chats and some of the other things, even if we only have 15, 60 people watching at a time, there are radio stations in your market, in my market, that don't get that kind of listenership at any given time, which is kind of scary if you think about it. But how many
right.
times do you need to hear, Motley Crue? Or maybe you want to hear it more often, but you know the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, look, if you're used to streaming once a week is what you should do, because, as you said, you put the most effort into it, you get the most out of it.
Yeah. I think, just I've learned a lot from doing this replay, and I'm just trying to share with you and everyone, all the viewers out there. Maybe, people, everybody's different. Everybody's going to do something different. But I learned about myself. I learned about what I like, what I don't like. I like to be connected to my project, whether it's through, you know, personal experience, or, through history books or whatever like that. So I'm not a kind of a guy that I'm going to sit back and do a 1976 Mets versus a 1924 Atlanta Braves, because I could care less about that. If I broadcast that, I would just be going through the motions. And I've learned that now. I don't care about that stuff. I want to relive the moments that happened that I didn't witness originally. The 1995 Seattle Mariners, I have no connection to them whatsoever. I don't remember watching any of the games. I didn't care about baseball back then. I have no connection to them whatsoever. But now, because I watched videos on the 1995 season, I've read articles about the team and what was going on and the history about it. I've learned, and I now have this connection with this project that I'm going. If I didn't have that connection, I would just go through the motions anyways. But there are a lot of people out there. I already had somebody post that said when Ken Griffey Jr. slid home, he was in the rafters that day, the day after his father passed. And
Wow.
he told me that he felt like his father was sitting in the chair next to him at the game cheering him on.
That's the only reason
And
why
so,
Seattle still has a team, because they would have left. They got now T-Mobile, but Safeco was built because of what happened, that comeback.
yep.
Yeah.
And if they wouldn't have had that comeback, we could be talking about the Vancouver Mariners or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's amazing, because I've had a couple of those, I did one game on the 78 football replay, because it was the guy went there with his father or someone that wasn't no longer there. And it was the first game he ever went to. And the game actually mattered for the Lions, as a matter of fact. And they won. So it kept the Lions into that's the sort of thing that you just don't you don't expect. And it's those are the moments. I mean, yes, there's the learning and having the fun, but it's the moments that you don't expect, the ones that I'll remember the most. I mean, having Strat Delaware on and watching the two of you had that conversation, Anthony from Bleacher Bums Gaming, talking about the high school kid that had no skills whatsoever, but a dad died or uncle died.
Yeah, I
Someone,
think it was his brother. Wasn't his brother that
his
died?
brother, yeah, close family member, and so he did it for those are the moments that stick with you. Not that Harmon Killebrew struck out in the third inning of a game in May. There's Dave Gardner will never let me forget pitch right in the end zone or whatever, but there are 120 other plays in that game, and you're not going to remember those. So yeah, those are the things, and yeah, we all learn from our mistakes and from what projects that we do, and I think watching Dave Little call basketball on a Friday night. Action PC basketball is the worst sport of the action PC genre to call. It gives you absolutely no visuals whatsoever. But he knows all those stories about those players from the late 60s, early 70s. And so he's okay, I'll watch 5 minutes, I'll throw in a like just because I want to be supportive. And you find yourself 45 minutes later absolutely engrossed in Cleveland, Atlanta, and watching Pistol Pete Maravich because he's got a good story about the backup center who went to some, that's the type of thing that, it's a hook.
And that's what I'm talking about. When you give when you're broadcasting and you give 110%, I care less about basketball. I'm like you. I have no interest in basketball whatsoever. I'll go watch Dave Little and his broadcast because he makes me want to go watch it. Because he's so dedicated and so committed to his broadcast. He makes me want to go and find out, okay, who's going to play this week, and calling it and listening to him and giving all of the descriptions and everything where he comes up with this stuff. He's amazing. Dave Little is amazing at what he does, but he does the basketball. I don't think he could do it for a soccer game or maybe a football game that he doesn't care about, but he loves his basketball. You can tell that.
Oh, without question. Without question. It took me a long time to even think about doing a boxing match because how could you compare to Al? He knows more about boxing. He's forgotten more about boxing than I'll ever know. Last week we did the thing because you did your thing on Sunday night. We had Anthony back on, or Al had Anthony on. Come on, Ron, let's do it together. Okay. And they just talked for 90 minutes, and it was wonderful. They talked about just that sort of thing. And so I don't want to say it's intimidating because no one really in the community is intimidating. We shouldn't be. But no, how the hell do you compete with someone who is so good at one particular thing?
Yeah,
I've enjoyed the fights that I've done, but I'm not pretending that I'm good at anything like that. So, but they're fun.
I'm going to go back a little bit. There was something in the chat, and I think we should talk about it because it brings up a good point, and it kind of goes on what we're talking about. Baseball Demos asks, do you guys get more out of doing a live game or pre-recording it and then uploading it? He's thinking about getting more into live streaming.
I would encourage him to do live streaming. He's a guy that does games as himself. I think it's important to get those stories told. We all know that we watch on demand and we don't skip through the highlights to try to find the parts that we think are exciting or whatever, just because if you sat there and watched everything from everybody's stream, you'd never get anything done yourself. This community is prolific and good. Not that's not a complaint. That's just the way it is. I know, and because he does it, he is my color guy when I'm doing a live game, because either him or Todd B or even Bubba, when he's not talking about, I'm going to wait till you finish that before I say pubic hair wigs, because Bubba and I got in a conversation about that once in a football game. Is that I learned, I get more enjoyment out of that. I don't expect everything to be baseball related in the chat, but people like Dave will bring up things that I didn't know outside of pronunciations. How to pronounce a player's name if you don't know how to do that, because sometimes you just don't know. And I'm not picking on you. I mean, because I've gotten corrected as well. But he will bring up a point, or Mark Forsberg will bring up a point about a game or a player, something that I wasn't aware of, and you look over and you can bring that into the call of the game. And Dave, I called him Anthony for an entire game, and I felt so bad. And he didn't correct me at all. Is a huge part of that. He'll say things that'll jog my memory or will jog someone else's memory that makes it, for me, a better broadcast. And so, yeah, I mean, you don't go overboard with it if you don't feel like you need to do that. I mean, sometimes the best thing to do is tape. But yeah, if you decided that if you're going to do maybe, a live game a week or 2 live games a week, I think it'll help the project go along farther. Personally, I think.
I think if I was going to say anything to anyone that's interested in getting into live streaming, I would say to them, there's advantages and there's disadvantages to live streaming. If you record it offline, where you don't have to commentate, watch chat, and everything, the game goes much quicker and faster, and you can concentrate more on it because the only thing you have, the only thing you're concentrating on is the actual thing you're doing. If I'm playing a card and dice game or I'm playing a computer game, that's the only thing I'm focused in on. I can talk and do what I'm doing, and I don't have to worry about anything else. When you're doing live streaming, in this, this is a a con and a pro at the same time. It's gonna be slightly slower because you're gonna have to watch more things. You got the chat to talk about, watch what's going on in the chat. And you're probably going to be interacting with the chat a little bit more, so it's going to slow things down. But I would highly recommend you get into live streaming if that doesn't bother you, because if it wasn't for the viewers that came when I was doing half of these Kansas City 1989 replay, I would have never completed this project. Because at least when I'm going through the motions and I didn't care about what I was doing and I was just, oh my God, we're in game number 104, 105, 106, At least I had people in the chat, hey, how you doing? I'd talk with them back and forth. It kept me actually going. And I think that's one of the best things is people are there. It keeps you more interested, because if there's somebody there watching, somebody's watching. You can't just sit there and not say anything and just click the button. You have to actually do something. Hey, how's it going? And that's how me and Clinton ended up meeting one day, was when he came to one of my live streams. So I think there are bonuses. There are cons and pros. I think there are more pros than cons, but it will add time to your game length, and it will be a little more distracting. And there are great discussions, and as you mentioned, there are people that mention something in the chat when you're having a game. Oh, I was at this game in 1984, and you're like, oh, really? What? And you talk about it and everything else, and your half-hour stream goes to an hour and a half because you spent 30 minutes talking to the person about the game and everything else. And
I mean, yeah, if I tape a game of action PC baseball, it's about 35-40 minutes. When I do them live, they're about an hour, and that the added difference is just the added interaction. And it's not always about the game or the players or the teams at hand. I mean, we've had conversations about the Three Stooges, or if someone will bring up, we've talked about Bobby's stuff. Whatever it is, as long as there's a flow. It must be awful distracting for someone watching on a full screen, wondering what the hell am I going on about now? But it's whatever it is that people, some days it's about telling the worst puns. Others, it's whatever, wishing someone well when someone doesn't feel well. That's stuff that you learn. If you are new to streaming, my heartiest recommendation is not to go live for a while. Tape them, watch them, and see what's going wrong and see what you can correct. Because the worst thing that you can do is sit there and go, here I am going to do this world. And yes, it's a very receptive community. But if you have obvious mistakes in your thing, I'm not talking about calling a game because everyone calls them different. But if your microphone isn't set right, or if your video isn't right, or whatever, people aren't going to come back.
Yes, I would. That's the. I'm glad you brought up that point because I was going to make it if I thought about it after I finished talking. Is make, as you said, make sure your stuff is working properly. Whatever recording software you're using, whatever microphone, whatever software, whatever, make sure everything's set up and working well. Because if you start having 30 minutes where you're not talking or they can't hear you because your microphone goes out, or you have static in the background, and I'm not calling anybody out, but if you have static in the background when you're trying to live stream and all people hear instead of hearing you, yeah, that's not going to be, you're not going to get a lot of subscribers.
Right. And that's, it's just one of those things that you can go back and watch yourself because you should be your own harshest critic. And I still go back and watch. I don't watch everything, everything, but I'll go through about once a week and pull up something and go, oh, the audio is too loud behind that. I need to quiet that down. Or today, if Windows does an update and it boosts my microphone up, sometimes people are nice enough to mention you're quiet or you're loud or whatever. And I can make the quick adjustment on the fly. I know what to do. But it really is important because even though the majority of my viewership, and I'm sure your viewership, is through subscribers, there's still 25 to 30% of the people who don't know about Uncle Ron. It's just some random dude calling a fake baseball game from 1982, and that's why the hell am I watching this? And you want to give people a reason to watch. But yeah, you be your own critic. You're going to make mistakes. We still make mistakes. There's not one game that I would say I was perfect tonight. I had a perfect game. I went back and watched the last half hour of last night's game, and there are times that I'm kind of in between thoughts for 5 or 6 seconds, like, oh, say something, you know, be your own critic. Get it. You don't have to be perfect about it because you're never going to be perfect. But if you want to do this on a semi-regular basis, you got to know what you're doing. You can be as entertaining and whatever. I mean, Dave Little and Dave Demos are very different style of announcer from the way that I do a game. That doesn't mean that my style is better than their style. They bring their own spin to it and they hook you in. And just because they don't raise their voice or don't try to be like NBC circa 1985, which is my whole shtick of, I'm going to give you what I watched as a kid because I enjoyed this style of broadcasting. Let's bring that back. That's not, as we talked about earlier, you get hooked onto some stories. That's just as good. But so yeah, for Dave Demos, you're ready to make the jump to live. You did it live yesterday and had a good time. I will say this: the one of the few times I felt bad in someone else's live stream was at a Dave Little stream because I think Al had done something or I had done something, and we jumped into Dave's stream and we continued our conversation, and it really distracted Dave from doing the job he thought because he was watching his chat going nuts and just joking from a fight or you don't want to distract your broadcaster either. You have that chat window open to interact, but and that I felt bad that particular night because we were taken away, and that's not what you should ever do.
I agree. I agree totally with everything you said. I mean, I've had chats where as the, and this is things you learn as a broadcaster. I mean, I know I posted comments in some of your videos, or I'm sorry, some of your live streams, and you've read them, but you don't talk about them, and you just keep going on with your thing. And you're like, oh, get with me later about that,
Yeah.
or whatever happens to be, or I'll hear you laugh about something I had wrote down there or whatever. It doesn't mean you have to sit there the whole time and interact with your chat. You just, as a broadcaster, and this takes practice and time, patience to learn when a good time to take a break and talk to your chat, or sometimes just not talk to them and let them do their own thing. And sometimes I just there's been a couple live streams where I just look over the chat occasionally, and I don't even really read it, and because I'm too focused on what I'm doing, and and they're talking about something else or whatever. So
Dale Lonsdale asks, how do we feel about dead air time? There needs to be more of it on television, I think, in the game. But as far as a stream is concerned, I think it depends on the flow. You should never be dead air during a football game, because that needs to have that fast staccato pace of handoff to fall through the middle, make the tackle. At the same time, I'm trying to figure out what play to run next. You don't want dead time there, because you never know when people are going to join or not join. And yes, because it's all visual, you can see time, score, down, distance, and all that. People are going to be somewhat informed for that. Baseball is another story. But again, because we're doing games that, you're doing a cards and dice game, or even the inside pitch, or me with the action PC, which the graphics aren't the greatest in the world, you got to at least keep the conversation moving, because we're not doing pitch by
yes,
pitch. It's
yes.
a batter by batter thing. And so whatever it is,
There are a few tips that I would give anyone, and specifically what we're talking about when you're doing cards and dice baseball. So you can see here, I'm going to be starting my 1995 inside pitch cards and dice. I'm going to have, because when we're talking about dead time, we're talking about, okay, I need to pull my pitcher, and you sit here and you spend 2 minutes going through your cards trying to find the next pitcher or whatever, or I got to get a pinch hitter or whatever. I'm going to have, you can see here these are my pitchers all ready to go for whichever team. This is Baltimore, the first team they play in the replay. I have all my pitchers ready to go. So when Mike Messina's done, all I have to do is go to the next card, or pick the next batter. There they are. They're all ready to go.
Rob's a good example of how to do pure, because he doesn't do any computer that I'm aware of. I'm not even sure if he has a PC. It just kind of goes and flows with the chat while he's making decisions, or flipping cards around or whatever, and just is very just general and conversational. And so it makes it packed. I mean, one of the things I think people forget, or if we give a good illusion to, is that even in my games, I've had people go, well, you're not actually playing the games. Well, yeah, I'm calling the plays, all the plays in football, and I'm managing the home team in baseball. Or if I'm doing I'm playing something. Is that you have to think about what you're going to do while you're entertaining people, and as a reaction to it. And if you can make people think that you're just kind of sitting there observing, and there's a lot of that in baseball, then you must be doing something right, because you're playing the game. The game is not just being played in front of you. You are an active participant in said game, especially in the football. And so once in a while I'll throw it out, what should I do here? Or I'll look over 3 plays later, you should have thrown it here. Okay, if I'd thought of it but yeah, I mean, you're making decisions about the outcome of the game, and you have to do them in a hurry,
In an instant.
in an instant.
When you watch we'll just take baseball as an example. We go through one batter in like 30 seconds. Well, that one batter is like 3, 4, 5 minutes of foul loss and balls and strikes and swing and misses and foul tips and all that stuff, where the manager gets to sit down and think about all these things that we have to come up with in an instant, because our batter's done. We need to know who the next batter is going to be.
batters up, how long is my starter gone? I mean, not things that you dwell on or poor, pitiful me, especially in the football game, because I think because you can see my thought processes play out because I have to click on every play. And yeah, it might take me, I might be doing whatever, a little bit of John Maddenisms on the last play as I'm going, what am I doing here? And I've got 4 or 5 seconds to make a decision here to get it off because as my dear friend Dave Gardner says, that it's all about keeping the flow.
Yeah.
So yeah, you shouldn't dead time more on television, and you don't want to be chatting people's ears off. There's a balance, but like I said, you've got a good balance of that in the cards and dice game, and I think Rob has a very good balance of keeping it together when he's making decisions and writing, 643 on the sheet or in the racing games or whatever. I think that it's easier for the computer because the computer's doing a lot of that, but Rob does a really good job of that.
So Dale also asked the question here: does computer quicker than is doing it on the computer quicker than cards and dice? And I can absolutely say, if you're doing it on the computer, it's going to be at least 3 to 4 times faster than if you're doing cards and dice.
The only way cards and dice would be faster is if you've played the game forever and you know what will work. Stratomatic, if you know the cards, you know where the dice rolls are. There are no X checks. There are no fielding checks on the batter's card. So if you roll out 1-7, you know that result is coming off the bat. There's no other charts to go. APA, if you've got the boards memorized, same with MPNG and MP3 and all that, you're going to know. But no, as far as computer will always be faster.
Yeah. I mean, there's advantages with both cards and dice and computer. I think cards and dice, you have a personal connection because you're actually involved in it. Sometimes as a PC player, depending on the system and stuff, it can feel like I'm just clicking the next button. I'm just clicking the next button. That's all I'm doing is clicking the next button. With the cards and dice, you're physically moving, flipping over the batter cards, you're rolling the dice, you're looking on charts and all that. Makes it you're more involved with the cards and dice, which again, it's a good thing because it keeps you involved, but it's also slower. So
right. And if you're doing it by yourself, cards and dice, you can you can play APA in 20 minutes, a basic game of APA. But as soon as you turn on a microphone and start talking about it, you're slowing yourself down.
Absolutely. And I think it also depends on your broadcast style as well. I mean, Al, Red Sox fan, he can take an hour and a half to do a card and dice. He can take an hour and a half to play the computer.
Yep. I run about an hour for baseball and an hour and a half for football. If I was playing by myself, well, I do play by myself. If I was playing to my own audience of me, myself, and the cat, she doesn't care. And so it's about 20 to 30 minutes for a baseball game, and probably 45 minutes to close to an hour for a football game. About 40 minutes if I'm limping right along.
Jason Demo says, and computer gives you a managing opponent. Well, that's not true. I mean, I played computer inside pitch, and it doesn't have any AI, but I should say that's probably the only one that doesn't have that is inside pitch. Most computer sims do have built-in AI.
Some of it's better than others. If I ever buy another version of Strat Baseball again, I never use their AI. It's always I manage against myself. You're not taking anything away from it. But to me, it's a card and dice game, and if you're playing it, you're playing against yourself anyway. So, my wife will ask me once in a while, "Well, who won?" Well, I played against myself, so who do you think won?
I won and lost, right?
I won and lost. I'm a loser, baby.
They're different animals. I mean, I was not doing cards and dice until what, a month ago, maybe 2 months.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Mostly, I mean, I was taking the time to actually take these cards off of PDFs and create them on my screen because I didn't want to do cards and dice. So I mean, it just depends on what you're interested in doing and trying, and you might try one thing and decide you don't like it and try something else. But I think, the biggest thing I can tell you is just be yourself and go in with the passion that you are going to love it. I've seen probably 10 people's comments so far that said you can tell when a broadcaster's into the game and it makes it more interesting for me to watch is when they're involved in the game and they're not just going through the motions. So
I
make
know.
sure whatever you're doing, you enjoy what you're doing. I think that's why Al Red Sox fan is so popular, is because everything he does, he goes in with this attitude that he loves it, and it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a 1956 Braves versus a 1980 Pirates or whatever the heck he was playing the other day, I had no connection to that, but I felt connected because he was so passionate about it.
I get a good sense about how it's going, how long that Bobby Catalano keeps talking, because she's not a sports fan. She knows a little bit about baseball, but she's not really a sports fan. And she sat there last night, and I expect people to leave in and out. I see what the numbers do during the game, and I never take offense to people leaving. I understand that at lunchtime people are coming in and out all the time. And Clinton brought it up before he left that just because I don't say anything doesn't mean I don't watch it. Um, but if the people I'm talking to at 12:05 are still talking with me at 1 o'clock, I've done a good job. It helps if the game is good, but not all games are going to be good. For every walk-off win you have for a team, you're going to get a game that's 9-0 in the fourth inning. And what the hell do you feel the next? That's always to me the sign of a good broadcaster. Any idiot can call a good game that's close. What are you doing when it's 17-0 in a baseball game in the fifth inning?
Yeah.
There's no mercy rule. So what are you going to talk about for the next half hour? Dale asked me how long do I consider a long time. I wonder if Dale's telling me I talk too much. For this type of thing, I really wouldn't want to be quiet for more than 3 or 4 seconds at a time, because as you said, we're eliminating a lot of things because we're not doing pitch by pitch, and we're not taking if we're doing football, we're not taking 35, 40 seconds between each play. There's no replay. There's no analyst to tell me what the blocker was doing and all that. The play is done. You react, down in distance, maybe the time or a general bit of the time as you're trying to figure out the next play and then run the play, because you don't ever want your events to run as long as they do in real life. And
No,
so,
I mean, that's another great point is people, most people are not going to come to your event and watch for 2 or 3 hours. They got too many. I mean, they got too many other things in their lives to do. I mean, go watch real life baseball, or go walk the dog, or take care of their kids, or clean the house, or wash their car. Whatever they got, they don't have 2 or 3 hours every day to come watch you just sit around and babble.
right. Oh, exactly. I mean, I'd love to do it. I'm trying to figure out a way to do a golf tournament. But the only way to do it, and to be fair to those who are contending for said tournament, we did that round of golf in an hour 20, which I thought was pretty was a good time, and so that I would do again. But if I want to do something like the last round of a Masters, and I've got 5 people scrambling around the back nine with a chance to win, how the hell do I keep that under 3 hours? You can't. And
Yeah.
that's yeah, I mean, it would be something that you might tape and watch in chunks and pieces, but you can't keep people that entertained unless you have 100 golf freaks watching.
No, I think when I signed up for YouTube, and this is like, oh man, this is like 6, 8 years ago, they used to have you go through like this little tutorial thing
Hmm.
that there was like videos and stuff you had to watch. And one of the videos said that, this, recommendations for you starting up your channel, blah, blah, blah. They said, the average length somebody comes to watch a YouTube video is 14 minutes. So create your videos 28 minutes or less is what they said. And that goes for live streaming as well. Most people are going to show up average 14 minutes.
Yeah,
And,
it's about my games run about 15 to 16 for people. I
yep.
think you
So,
overall.
I mean, we've been going an hour and 43 minutes.
Yep,
We've had probably turnover of half the people are gone, half the
yep,
other.
and
We
that's
got,
fine. And that's
yeah,
fine.
absolutely. I don't expect everyone to come and watch from beginning to end. I just expect when they come for their 15 or 20 minutes or however long they decide to come back or come and watch, that at least they'll go away thinking, yeah, I had a good time. I'm glad I stopped by for a few minutes. And that's all I want. If you can come by for 10, 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you can come by for, say hi, you know, how you doing today? Which Bobby Catalano, every time I got to give her, kudos and credit every single time, no matter which chat I'm in or whatever. When I say, hey, hi, Bobby, or whatever, she always says, how you doing? She says hi back. She is on the ball 100% with that. And that there's a lot of community members that we have that are always doing that. And that keeps everyone more involved and more entertained and happy is when you have people that, oh, hi, how you doing, how's your day going, how you feeling better, whatever, just little things like that.
Oh, absolutely. I did Neil one at someone that was spouting nonsense on the chat, which I took care of.
Hey, thank you. Stratomatic Delaware
Hey,
is here as
Chris.
well.
Yeah, and that's a thing. I mean, what we do is very specialized and very niche. There are channels that show cooking or that draw that or have game bases that are in the hundreds of thousands, and you're going to draw to that. And I watch a lot of those because you got to figure out how to, some of the most entertaining things I've seen are people just being goofballs playing a video game, but they draw, they have a 500,000 subscribers. You sit there and you find yourself watching all the time. You got to learn. I mean, if you're going to take this seriously and want to do something with it, you've got to be always open and willing to learn and understand that, as you said, people aren't going to watch everything that you do. They're not going to like everything that you do. They're
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
if I go back to my first video, I go back and it was a joke. It was like, oh my God, I can't even believe I did that. And you watch the first 6 months or a year of what I did back, like I said, I've been doing this for 6 or 8 years now. And I go back, if I have to watch these again, I'm like, delete those, get those
Oh,
off. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with those, but you learn and you develop and you figure out what's good, what you like to do, how you like to do things. Everyone does something different. A lot of what I do is from watching other people. I was not a big sports simmer for a long time, and watching you guys sim in your sports, and I'm like, hey, that looks pretty fun. I like that. I'm going to try and do that. I was doing wargaming, and I was doing like regular computer games, like action RPG games, and
mhm.
stuff like that. So watch other people, but be yourself. Don't try and emulate anybody else. Just be yourself and do your thing. But go in with a passion and a desire for what you do.
Oh, you can't fake it. You might get away with it once, but you're certainly not getting away with it the second time. And there's something whether you want to whatever it is you want to demonstrate. It doesn't necessarily have to be sports gaming or whatever it is that you want to talk about. There's obviously something that you care about that you want to share, and that other people want to share with you. I mean,
Yep.
I mean that.
And it can be anything. I mean, you talked about OG and Gunslinger. And now I have not watched the video personally, but I know it's been talked about, and it's on one of my to-do lists to go check out his video because he went in with a passion. If you would have told me 6 months ago, oh yeah, you're going to watch a video on somebody uh, teaching you how to play, um, what's the name of the game again?
Gunslinger.
Gunslinger. Couldn't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. I would have told you you're crazy. There's no way I'm going to waste my time doing that. But you know what? I'm going to be doing it because I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to watch, and I can't wait to see it because I know that he has a passion. It's like a Tyrion hobbyist who paints these little
I've
war
watched.
figures. I would have
Fascinating.
been like, "There's no way I'm going to watch that." But when somebody has a passion for it, it makes it interesting for you. It doesn't matter what it is. You could be talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or Rob talking about the different ways to cook frozen pizza.
Yeah, absolutely. Or his eBay content, eBay stuff. It doesn't always have to be about sports. So says the person that's all of his content is sports. I mean, what was it? I mean, going back to the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, you get some of those people who are excited to play and playing against people who they know are good. Couple of those videos, I mean, you get sucked in just because they get excited about, ooh, we're doing this adventure and we're going to take 8 hours to play it and we're going to live stream it. And there are 18,000 people who are going to watch you and they're going, ooh, it really doesn't matter what it is. For me, it just happens to be I'm good at sports gaming. I'm terrible at console gaming. I tried playing Civ 6, I think it was once. I got lost in doing it. Poor Devin sat there and watched most of it. It's like boring. I remember trying at one point years ago, trying to do Minecraft on Twitch, and I didn't know how to make a fire or whatever it was. Someone took pity on me. That's experiment, of course, but it always comes back to, okay, I'm really going to do something that's not sports related. And 20 minutes later, it's the Patriots and the Rams, and here we go. let's get into it. And so I guess that's what I'm good at.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, so I think there was another post that I was gonna mention, and I think it got scrolled up. Hang on a second. It's amazing how well unboxing videos do. It's exciting to watch someone who's excited to open their new toy. Again,
Fascinating.
it's about the person and their excitement. They're excited because they're getting a brand new present. It's like Christmas for them. It's a new toy. It's a new thing, and they're going to be excited, which makes your viewers excited.
It's
Uh,
I watched Combat Painter. That's how I got starting to watch him. He scored some sort of APA and Strat deal, two different random videos from people, and they just shipped him stuff. And he's going through, and he realizes that he's hit the mother load. He's got like 10 APA seasons in this box, and the way that his voice goes up, or when Phantom Manic opens up some of his basketball cards that he buys. There's so many crap card opening things because, all right, you roll the dice, you're gonna get all the rays, and he's gonna get all the bets, and we're gonna you didn't get a hit, you didn't get a hit. And then you watch MP. We've talked about MP Fox and his kid Teo before. To just the look of genuine. I pulled this. Well, yeah, he's a scrub, but he might have given you an autograph when you were there, or going back in the lines of David Little, this might have been your favorite player growing up, and he's on a modern. Yeah, it just goes right through it. It depends on how it's presented and how genuine and authentic. Instead of we're going to make some money because you pulled, congratulations. If I'm buying cards, I don't want other people to open them for me. I'm opening my own damn cards. But you know what I'm saying.
yep, as we talked about a while ago, people come watch videos to be entertained or to learn something. And Stratomatic Delaware says that he's found out that his best watch videos are when he does a tutorial video. So, yep, they either come to be entertained or they come to learn something. If you can teach people things, I know, I used to do a lot of tutorial videos on how to play different games, on ASL, on wargaming, and all kinds of stuff. Those are one of my most watched that I have
Oh,
on my channel.
tutorial most stuff watch on my channel is not games. It's interviews. Chris, you, Al is the most watched thing I had forever. Um, those tutorials, the basics of, or if I got talking about a game or what have, that's what people really want to watch. I mean, it's not that my game numbers are terrible. If they were terrible, I wouldn't be doing them. But yeah, it's the one-offs. It's the taking the time to explain or showing why you like what you're doing. That's what people want to watch.
All right, why don't you give us a rundown? Tomorrow night, you're running 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock is our prime-time game of the week. It'll be the Baltimore Orioles and the Detroit Tigers from Tiger Stadium. They are tied at about 78 games in the season. They're in dead first place. Milwaukee and Toronto are 7 back in the American League East. So that's tomorrow's game from Friday night of whatever week that I'm on. I'm halfway done with that replay. That's hard to believe. And then Thursday afternoon, it'll be the Seattle Mariners making their Retro Sports Network debut against the Chicago White Sox. And then Friday, we'll do the next Patriots challenge. The 78 Steelers will play the 2007 Patriots. But you guys seem to love the lunchtime stuff. And so that's what if that's what you want, and that's what you're going to get. So
hey, I works out good a lot of times. I'm at my desk at work. I'm trying to chill out to get ready for lunch. I'll turn you on. I might have to run and get some food or go heat it up like I had to today, and then come back and just eat my lunch and listen to you go to town. So a lot of times I'm not typing much in the chat because I'm eating and stuff at lunch. So it works out great for me, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there.
yeah, it was one of those things when going back to when Al said you should stream live. It's like, well, that's to me sounded like a good time because just for that reason, people kind of coming in and out and get them hooked. I mean, one of the things that Dave Gardner said to me a while ago was like, it's better to listen to sports talk radio. I mean, how many times can you listen to you got to sign this player, that player's a bum? I mean, you just try to entertain people, and I'm glad that people like that. So, and what about you, my friend? What do you got coming up? When are you starting your Mariner stuff?
I'm gonna be starting it shortly. I'm gonna try and see if there's. I've got that golf, the inside the cup. I started that tournament. I've had quite a few people asking me when I was going to continue that or when that was going to come up. So I'm thinking about finishing up on that. I'd like to get back with Stratomatic Dell where we had a live tournament.
That was so much fun.
With inside the cups. So if I could get Stratomatic to schedule a time and maybe we could make that a thing. Every once a month or once every couple weeks or whatever we can arrange. I do have the inside pitch coming up, and I think that's his. I did have. I should say. I did have the National Pastime Next Generation Plus 2017's one and done tournament, which I started. And I got through 3 or 4 games, and then I put that on hold. And I'm not sure I'm going to continue that in its current form yet or not. I didn't realize when I did the original one and done in 2015, it was a great success. I had a great time doing it, but I was using Inside Pitch, the computer version. And now that I'm doing with the cards and dice in National Pastime Next Generation Plus, I've got to create the lineup cards. I've got to create the lineups. I got to do the score sheet. I got to do all this extra stuff. When I was doing an inside pitch, I could just pull up the lineup and just go. And it didn't have all that prep time involved in it. It takes an hour or more of prep time just to get that up and running. And so I'm not sure I'm going to continue that with National Pastime Next Generation Plus or just cancel that project and do it. I think the one and done tournaments are great. They've been a great success for a lot of channels. Al's done one. I think you've done one, haven't you?
One and done? No, I haven't done a one and done. The
Okay.
Patriots thing is kind of the most unorthodox thing that I've done on the channel.
Right. Okay. But that's those were always fun because I take all the teams, put them in a bracket, kind of like the Final Four March Madness stuff, and anybody can end up winning it. In 2015, the 29th seed Cincinnati Reds won the one and done tournament. They were the best team in 2015. Who would have guessed?
Yeah, I've done offline. I've done top 8. regardless of league, and throw them together. College World Series type double elimination. Actually, had my first ever simulated no hitter. Catfish Hunter no hit the 78 Phillies as the 78 Yankees. That was years ago. But yeah, that's all good. And of course, game 2 of our community baseball series, and I'm disappointed I didn't get to pitch against Stratamatic Delaware
tomorrow night. You're running your thing at 7.
7, and then
you're done. Then baseball demos will be doing live, so around 8 o'clock, depending on how long your game goes. So around 8 o'clock, baseball demos will be bringing up game number 2. It's going to feature starting pitchers of Al Red Sox fan and Stratamatic Delaware going at it. We had a great game 1. We were fortunate to win, but I felt, it was a great game one way or the other. If we would have lost that game, I was still happy that, it was a great game. I would have, pulled out some bullshit shenanigans that Clinton Parks probably screwed us over. But so we look forward to that tomorrow night at 8 o'clock as well. Don't forget, Robbie also has his Red, White, and Blue Racing League going on. If you missed it today, watch his game he did this morning. He is actually on at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and I just happened to flip over there at work real quick. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't watched it, but one of your favorite YouTubers definitely had won that race today. I'm almost guarantee that. So anyways, thoughts about, we'll just go a few more minutes here, but thoughts about the season so far, baseball season 2019. Any thoughts about it? It's early. I mean, anything
early. Rob is happy. The Nationals are getting beat 5-0 by the Phillies.
I saw that in the chat.
I think the Nats are in trouble. I watched most of that series against the Mets, and this is a team that has never responded well to pressure. And everyone, on paper, they have the best team, but reality is different. And they strike me as these were games that they had to win. Yeah, it's April now, but yes, you got to do better. Concerned about the Red Sox pitching, but I didn't pick them to make the playoffs anyway. Seattle just pounded them 17 ways to Sunday, didn't they?
Yeah, I tell you what, I've watched a lot of baseball. I like to get a gauge early in the season on how things are going and just the new players and everything. Seattle is for real.
I think so.
Now, if they keep playing the way they're playing right now, it's 162 games, so anything can happen. But Seattle is for real. And I'll tell you the other thing, the White Sox, everyone, when we had our preview, almost everyone picked the White Sox as a surprise team. And I told you all it was too early. The White Sox still look like they are at least a season or 2 away. They do not look good at all.
Yeah, bad start for the Yankees, even though I think they'll come back around. We talked about this a little bit before we came on. Acuna, 10 years, 120 million or something like that. 8 years and 2 options for the Braves. What a steal for Atlanta.
Yeah, I think it's a good deal for Atlanta. I think it's a good deal
for Atlanta.
For Acuna, because now he doesn't have to worry about anything for 10 years. He can just go play baseball. And it's not like, I'm going to be missing out of, $50 million. It's kind of hard to feel sorry for someone when they get over $100 million. You know what I mean?
We haven't talked since the Trout signing, right?
We have not.
What did you think of that?
Surprised. I think baseball, and someone had mentioned it in one of our streams, it might even have been you, baseball has got to get this under control immediately. They cannot have these long-term contracts in 10 or 15 years from now. These teams that are making these contracts are going to be hurting for money. They're not going to have it because they're still paying these guys that it's going to be like, we're paying Bryce Harper still 32 million to play 6 games a year or
Yeah,
whatever. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to him?
I'm
So they got to go the way of hockey and limit it to how many seasons they
You
can
can't go longer than 8 years in hockey. I'm delighted that Trout wanted to stay, and they got it done. Whether it's an insane deal or not, I think what Mike Trout brings to the Los Angeles Angels or whatever they call themselves, uh, is good overall for the game. But uh, to see Craig Kimbrell out there and still wanting a 6-year contract at 30 years old and as a closer is nuts. For him, come back down on that. Take a 3-year deal. Get some options. You're right. I mean, it's got to be, like I said, I don't mind the kids being signed or someone like Trout who generally wanted to stay. I don't think anyone forced him to stay with the Angels, but 13-year deals, 12-year deals, it's just bad money.
It's a big money, and it's. I think it's big money is number one problem, but I think the bigger problem is the length of the contract.
Yeah,
I mean, Mike Trout is. We all know he's the best player, supposedly in baseball. I mean, top 2 or 3, depending on who you talk to. Okay,
right.
but is he going to be top 2 or 3 in 10 years from now?
I doubt it.
I mean, let's say next year he goes out and he runs into the wall and he sprains his knee, has to have surgery. He's out for the season for recovery. The next season he tries to come back. He's not very good because he can't run as fast. So he switches over to be a DH. Now you're paying $36 to $46 million a year for DH. Are you kidding me?
I mean, look what's happened to Clayton Kershaw. I mean, he was for 2 or 3 years the best pitcher on the planet, and then he hurt his back.
Yep. And now you're going to get lucky to get half a season out of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's still 80%, which is 90% better than most of the pitchers in baseball, but he's not a $35 million a year man anymore.
Right.
So
I think right now there are, and I love it because there are a lot of good teams in baseball that are off to a bad start. The Cardinals, the Cincinnati, or not Cincinnati, Cleveland Indians, the Chicago Cubs, Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees. Who else am I missing? The Washington Nationals. I still think they're going to be good. They're all off to a really bad start, and then you have all these other teams that nobody thought were going to be any good. Seattle,
yeah,
Kansas City. I mentioned Kansas City was going to be tough this year.
and
Nobody
they
believed
lost
me.
Sal Perez too for the year.
Yep, yep. Tampa Bay. I mean, everybody thought they were going to be kind of good. Who thought they were going to go 4-1 to start the season?
Especially when they opened up against the Astros.
Right, right.
Um,
I mean, it's early in the season. We know it's only 4 or 5 games. We're not trying to say anything at this point, but I mean, definitely surprise to the season. Baltimore 3-2. They took the series
shocking.
against the Yankees. Who would have thought
They're
they took the
terrible.
series against the Yankees?
Here's the thing. Here's the big difference between sports in the 21st century and sports when you and I are growing up in the 70s and 80s. There's because of sports talk radio and social media, there's so much pressure on teams who were expected to do well to come out of the gate flying. I mean, the blame games in Washington for what happened, and if Trey Turner doesn't bail out the Nats on Sunday, they're now looking at an 0-4 start. It's terrible. You would not have known last year the Red Sox were a 108-win team by reading social media. They're terrible. They can't pitch. They won 108 games and won a World Series. What more do you want? I know you're really struggling with the Cubs' slow start. I know that's keeping you up at night. You know that.
Well, I mean, just the Cubs have also played everyone on the road so far, so they
Yeah,
haven't even been home, just like Boston. So, I mean, I kind of expected these guys to be off to a slower start. I
yeah, but
mean,
if Chris Sale gets
Boston's playing on the West Coast for like their first 8 games of the season or
yeah,
something.
but Chris Sale pitches tonight. In fact, he's starting right now, so I'm going to watch that in a minute. If he gets hammered again, watch out. I mean, the expectations are so high and so unrealistic, it's almost impossible for anybody to live up to them. But as these, I mean, look, yeah, the Red Sox never play well on the West Coast. We still have 81 games left at Fenway. And yes, it's fun to laugh at the Yankees for losing, and they've lost Stanton for a while, and Miguel Andujar's out, I think, for the year.
Yeah,
with a shoulder.
and Hart's out for the year now. Yeah.
It's like I said, today's the 2nd of April. let's kind of rein in the bottle throwing and the firing. I think Davey Martinez gets the axe pretty quick this year, but let's not be out there with pitchforks and stuff right now.
Well, the thing is baseball for me is they keep saying that football is a game of inches and stuff. Baseball is a game of millimeters, right? Because you can have that ball right there, and if you don't hit it squarely, if you're just a little bit off, just a millimeter this way or that way, instead of a home run, it's a fly ball. And the difference between 108 season and going down to 87 wins season is just you don't get all those good rolls.
You need a lot of luck. You need a lot of luck to have a season like that.
Yep. And you need to have all the rolls go your way. And the difference between these professional players are not that big a difference.
Nope.
I mean, that's why I'm surprised. I mean, Mike Trout, yes, best player in baseball, but he's only this much better than, is his average like 680? And the guy that's backing him up is like 125. No, his average is like 170 or 275. The guy that's backing him up is 260. He's only this much better.
Yeah, there just isn't. I mean, some players have it, some players don't. And Trout's one of those ones that has it. Here's the other thing too. Now I'm trying to regain it. Oh yeah, every game, in football, a game in October is as important as a game in December, and because you only play the once a week, it's the equivalent of 10 major league games. So if you get beat by your division rival in late September, early October, it kind of spins against you. And so people go, it's a game in April. How big can it be? You can't tell me if the Nationals start the season 1-4, losing to teams in their division, that doesn't come back to bite them come September, because it's all 1/162nd of a season, but the psychological things start to add up after a while. And so, yes, we joke about Baltimore getting off to a good start and Seattle getting off to a good start. They'll come back to earth eventually. How much of an 8-ball do the teams get? How much of it behind the 8-ball do teams like the Red Sox and the Nats get? The Red Sox, like I said, they haven't been, as you said, they haven't been home yet. The Nats are home. They're going to be 1-4 starting at home with division rivals. Yeah. That changes the entire outlook of the season. Now, at some point, they'll pop off a 7 or 8 game winning streak and all will be forgotten. But until that happens, yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you never know what the injury bugs are. I mean, how much does it change for the Yankees to have Stanton gone for a month?
Well, I think the other thing we talked about these big contracts, and what happens is the teams that get these big contracts, they have less money for their backup players. So they don't have as good backup players. You know what I'm saying? So you have somebody had mentioned Baltimore this season. They have a bunch of players that are low salary players right now. And everybody's like, oh, they're going to suck. They're awful and everything like that. They're like 3-2. They are 4-2. I think, I don't know if they won tonight or not. But they're a fun team to watch because they're going out there and they're running their asses off. Now, what's going to end up happening is through 162 games, right, they're not going to be able to keep this up. But because they don't have the big money team,
the Rays shut out the Rockies tonight.
Who did?
The Rays shut out the Rockies tonight.
Another? Wow.
Yeah.
Who would,
Who would have thought? I called the Rays to be a wild card team.
You did, and so did I. So we are on there. I also picked the Mets to be one of my wild card teams in the National League, and nobody else saw the net. I think the Mets are going to be.
I'm impressed. They got that Peter Alonso kid.
Yeah,
Impressed the hell out of me this weekend. He can hit.
he can hit.
He can
They've
hit.
got. I think what ends up happening is some of these teams, you go into the expectations, remembering what have you done for me lately? You know that expression, right? And
Sure.
everybody remembers what everyone did last year going into this year. And I think the Yankees this year are older and slower. And now they got injuries on top of that. I'm starting to worry if I'm a Yankees fan. I am starting to worry.
My good friend who's a Yankees fan he makes the point of saying that, Aaron Judge is beloved in New York, and then you have Stanton who comes across as the hired hand and tries to press too much the Judge. And sometimes they'll come back to bite you.
Absolutely. I mean, look at Baltimore Orioles a couple years ago. They were, wild card team, wild card team, wild card team. They weren't getting any new players. Remember, every year is a new season, but
That's
those
right.
players are a year older. You start doing that year after year after year, all of a sudden they're 4, 5, 6 years older. They're slower, they're older, they're frailer, they're going to be more prone to injury. And look at where Baltimore is now.
And that's the amazing thing about what the Atlanta Braves did to win that division 13 straight years. It just is mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. So yeah, ask me in a month, but there's a lot of pressure on some teams from the early going, and as you said, there's no pressure on Baltimore. There's hardly any pressure on the Mets. I'm still pretty bullish on the Padres. The Giants are going to suck this year. And
Giants just picked up someone
they
today.
picked up somebody from Toronto, and I can't think of who. Kevin Pillar, I think.
Kevin Pillar. That's right. I couldn't remember what team. Kevin Pillar, right?
And so that was probably a good trade for them. But yeah, it's early on, but as Yogi would say, it's getting late awful early.
And the other thing, you talked about these teams that are off to sluggish starts. What happens is people people start feeling the pressure. I'm not performing.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden you have infighting, players not liking what the other players are doing. Hey, you should be out here at 8 o'clock in the morning with us for batting practice. You're not out here. Then you have squabbling going on. Teams that are winning, that
Don't
doesn't
do
ever
that.
happen.
Sure.
Nobody gives a shit whether you show up at 8 o'clock in the morning for batting practice or not. It's all about, hey, we're winning. It doesn't matter what you do, buddy. You can come in at midnight or whatever you want to do. Teams that are losing, more pressure, start squabbling, and it just builds and builds and builds. So if these teams continue to struggle, we could have some very big upsets this year.
If the Nats don't take the next two from Philadelphia, they'll have started at home against two teams they need to beat to win with losing series. They can't split the next two. They really need the next two. Yes, it's April 2nd, but you can't start the season 1-6 at home. At least for the Red Sox, they're still on the road. They're on the West Coast. They come home this weekend. Hopefully that will change. Unless Sale gets lit up again tonight, and then you kind of wonder, oh, here's a guy that we just spent $150 million to keep. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
Well, I think it'll be interesting. I think we'll talk about it in a week or two. We'll get together again. We'll maybe have another baseball preview show and get to talk to. Maybe we'll invite some other guests back and get everybody's thoughts. And maybe we'll do it at the end of April. Maybe we'll do it at the end of every month and see.
No, that sounds fun.
And then we can talk about the up and comers, what we see, what we don't like to see, injuries, and all that. So. Baseball Demo says, don't discount Baltimore. In 1988, they were into the worst in baseball. And in 1989, they almost won it by bringing in good young talent who hustled and great defense. Could be deja vu all over again.
They started 88 0-22. I don't know. I don't know if that rings a bell for you or not. I mean, that was such a bad start that everyone knew that the Orioles were 0-2.
The 0-18 with the players sitting on the bench with the bat up against the wall. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they brought in Frank Robinson to turn that team around, and he did in 89. Real quick, because I know that you want to go. Ben McDonald is doing games for Orioles radio and television this year. He's fantastic. I caught one of his spring games. He's going to be a star in the television business. Southern draw. I think he's connected with LSU baseball, Louisiana State. But after the College World Series, he's going to fill in. Says Jim Palmer slows down towards retirement. He just impressed the snot out of me, especially for a spring training game. You're going to hear a lot of good things about Ben McDonald. Was the number 1 overall pick, I think, in '89. He's going to be a hell of a broadcaster.
Awesome to hear. I'd love to have it come down to Baltimore and Tampa Bay for 1-2, and everybody be like, "What happened to the Yankees and Red Sox, baby? What happened?" That would be awesome. All right, everyone, we are out of here. We got baseball to watch tonight. Baseball demos, Dale, Stratomatic Delaware, MP Fox, our good friend, of course, Ron Junkett, Larry Harris, Sports Time Machine, Rob Explanation Point, D. Scott Howard. I love you all. Thank you so much for coming out, supporting my channel. I do appreciate it. Italian Hobbyists, thank you for everything you do for our community. I know that, like I said, I think you were the one that sent OG his copy of Gunslinger, and good big kudos to you for doing that. Appreciate that. Let's see, who else do we have here? Ken Castro, good community member, wonderful guy, just the best ever. Stratomatic Delaware, we love him. We won't love him tomorrow night. But every other night of the year, we love him.
I'm glad I got a chance to pitch against Clinton, but I really wanted to pitch against Strat. And when Clinton defected from our team.
Yep. MP Fox, DJ John 444, Bobby Catalano, of course. Hope Al Rocksex, 3 big shout outs. We hope Al, Red Sox fan, is feeling better.
Absolutely.
We hope the OG is feeling better. And we hope Beatles eternally, whatever he's going through, we wish him the best of luck. Want him to get back into the community and give us, or we want to give him our love and support to whatever he's going through. So big 3 shout outs for there. If you got any shout outs, go ahead, Ron.
No, you pretty much got them all. We wish you guys the best and hope that whatever it is that you feel better soon and that you're back with us as soon as possible. And it was good to see Mike McAllister in the chat earlier tonight. Mike's feeling, hopefully that means that Mike is feeling better. And we look forward to him being in all of our channels sometime soon as well.
All right, beautiful. All right, D. Scott, D. John, Dale, Baseball Demos, everyone else that still happens to be here. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate Ron filling in again. Thank you, Ron, for all you do for our community, and we'll see you tomorrow at lunchtime, and then at 7 p.m.
7 p.m. I'm on lunch on Dave Gardner's channel for his Roller Hockey League. We do a weekly show there on Wednesdays, and then my show tomorrow, or my game tomorrow night at 7, the Orioles and the Tigers.
And then shortly after, Baseball Demos around 8 for his Game 2. We'll see you all tomorrow night. Thanks a lot.
Good night.